Good morning. If everyone will take their seats, we'll go ahead and get started. The guys here behind us that have been working hard, they need a break. There's some who said this would never be built, but obviously that was wrong.
And let me tell you something. Not only are you putting pieces together that will become a hospital, but there will be people's lives saved in this building. More than likely, we would not be here had it not been for the partnership with NEA Clinic, led by people like Dr. Ray Hall and Steve Woodruff and Dr. Robert Taylor. Those three individuals and their colleagues saw an opportunity for a partnership between physicians, other healthcare providers, and this community to create such a facility.
Oftentimes we laugh and say that NEA Clinic started in the cafeteria, which was called the Coral Room at UAMS, with a bunch of us sitting around a table in the cafeteria talking about where we're going to end up.
Jonesboro was positioned perfectly for internal medicine clinic. There were only 3 internists in Jonesboro, and they were very busy.
Most of the internal medicine doctors would stay in Little Rock or in the Little Rock vicinity, or maybe some would drift off toward northwest Arkansas, but nobody really had shown much interest in coming up to Jonesboro.
So I started solo in 1977, but did not plan to stay solo, and began to recruit fellow residents that I knew, and within 10 years we had 15 doctors. We grew really rapidly in the early 1980s.
The culture has been a group of physicians who were well acquainted, knew each other well, were friends and partners, not a lot of internal competition. It's been more centered around cooperating on patient care.
The atmosphere in the early 1990s in the country was directed toward medical care through HMOs, preferred provider organizations called PPOs. And so doctors realized that the solo and the onesie and twosie practices were not going to be able to survive in that atmosphere. So we decided to become a multi-specialty clinic.
We started bringing in surgeons. So we brought in general surgery, neurosurgery, orthopedics, and from that base, we over time have grown to be the largest multi-specialty clinic in the state.
We were exclusive staff members at St. Bernard's for 18 years when we started the clinic. But as time went on with managed care, we realized that we probably needed to be more doctor-physician driven, more autonomy as the term is. And so we began to use the community hospital known as Regional Medical Center of Northeast Arkansas at that time. The hospital then was owned by several for-profit large corporations.
Our experience with the for-profits were not very good because of the level of investment and capital and other things that we thought were not ideal.
We needed more room. We only had 85 beds maybe, and we were full. We didn't have a dedicated intensive care unit.
So I came to be the CEO at NEA Baptist Memorial Hospital. When I walked into the old hospital, I couldn't believe the number of patients that were seen in that hospital every day. I'll never forget walking into an area that they called like a critical care unit and having 8 to 10 patients staring back at me because it was not much more than a closet at the time.
We expected them to put capital in to that facility, and it just didn't happen. We needed deeper pockets and a more robust organization to fuel our growth, actually. We started looking for another partner, and that's when we approached Baptist.
We had actually talked to Baptist several years earlier And at that time, they weren't doing any partnerships with physicians, but by this time, they were ready and we were ready, and it looked like it would be a good partnership.
Dr. Hall and I grew up in Jonesboro in the early days. When we were children, the story was if you died in Jonesboro, it was because you didn't get to Baptist in time. And that sounds kind of crude, but that was kind of the way it was. It's ironic, we spent so much of our career working to be independent of Baptist by bringing in specialty care, heart surgery, cardiovascular work, the whole deal working at St. Bernard's. But we knew that they had the reputation, that they had the capital, that they had the ability to do something big.
The CEO of Baptist was my college classmate, Mr. Steve Reynolds, and they had left Arkansas, where they had several small hospitals several years before. So their mission statement was 3 states, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Arkansas. And so they had nothing really in Arkansas at that time.
We just felt like they were the ideal partner. We said basically, we know how clinic practice should be. You know how hospitals should be. So we worked out a deal where they purchased the entire hospital, and then we worked out a governance deal under Baptist, being employed by Baptist, to form a group called Baptist Medical Group.
Took about a year of discussions and negotiations to get all the deals done, to get things finalized. That's where we ended up. The clinic on the property where Longhorn and Red Lobster is now, and had plans to build a clinic building there. We discussed and had thought we would upgrade that hospital building and add on to it.
And then Baptist looked at that and said, guys, that's not going to work. That hospital is old. It doesn't really fit with what we want to do. You need a new plan.
In a hospital that was built at the time the old building was, by the early 2010s, you were seeing a lot of need for renovation and refurbishment. And so it just made more sense to invest that money into a completely new campus than trying to restore and rebuild an aging facility that was bursting at the seams.
And when the decision was made to start looking at building a new hospital, Jackie Eubanks, who was the corporate facilities director, Mr. Bess, who was the CEO at the hospital at the time, and myself got in a car and drove around Jonesboro, and we pulled into this beautiful pasture. And immediately we all three looked at each other and said, this is it.
This location was strategically planned due to the growth and the potential growth opportunity closer and closer to Greene County and the Paragould growth. That was why the Hilltop area was decided.
Dr. Taylor and I went over to Collierville and met with Mr. Reynolds, who was the CEO at the time, and walked us through that hospital and said, I'll build you one of these. And we thought, boy, this is beautiful. This place looks like a hotel. This is gorgeous. And Dr. Taylor and I on the way back thought, that's not going to be big enough, though. We were going to have to be a lot bigger. They did bring in the architectural company, ESA company out of Nashville, came in and sat down with us and said, okay, we need to work together and collaborate. So we were actually able to sit at the table with the architects.
We wanted an ultra-modern style with connectivity between the clinic and the hospitals.
Rapid access to patients, good, convenient place for the physician to work, the ability to be close at hand and not have to drive all over town to provide care.
So NEA Baptist Health System, as an integrated healthcare system, is a combination of inpatient and outpatient services on a wider scale than what you typically see.
Everyone connects to the hospital at a certain area that they work in primarily.
The ICU was on the same floor with cardiology and general surgery.
OBGYN doctors, the baby doctors, they need to be close to the labor and delivery area.
So you can see a physician in the clinic, and that physician can walk right down the hallway, be right where they need to be in the hospital to care for a patient in that hospital bed.
And these are really skilled architects. They had built Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale, Arizona. They built the Gaylord Hotels, the Gaylord National Hotel. They were extremely skilled in building hospitals and hotels. And a hospital is a big fancy hotel that takes care of folks.
We knew that we had the ability to build and take care of a lot more people, which was really one of the reasons that we pursued such a big medical campus.
Well, we're moving on up to the north side, to a deluxe medical campus that saves lives.
I remember coming out and wondering when we would come out of the ground, because so much is under the ground here.
There was a lot went into the foundation. I think it was 50-some deep pilings that made it earthquake resistant.
There's so much steel in the columns and in the shear walls that it's hard for the guys to even get the concrete down inside of it.
4,900 tons of reinforcing steel in the foundations, 42,168 yards of building concrete poured to date, 404,000 square feet of metal decking.
Over, I think, 1,800 pylons driven in the ground below this building. And then they poured a slab of concrete about 2 feet thick that sits on those pylons. The slab can move on the pylons. Being as we are in a zone 4 for earthquake risk, there's a lot of things in this building that had to be done to meet that standard. The structure of the hospital is 6 floors, 6 stories, 556,000 square feet in the hospital, approximately 125,000 in the clinic, and then the cancer center is about 35,000 square feet. We were working on a $400 million budget. About 80 million of that was equipment. The other 300 million was for the construction. We had anywhere from 300 to 400 people on site working daily. Periodically, we had trouble with the subcontractors having enough help. They tried to hire every electrician they could in the area and every plumber they could, and they kept up. I mean, they did good, but it was a challenge. There were people driving from Memphis here to work every day, from northern in Missouri. There were days I saw 6 to 10 concrete trucks lined up out here just to unload. If it was muddy, they had to build a road out of rock to be able to get the trucks in here. A lot of coordination, a lot of it, to fill the quota we needed. The structure is maintained by one plant that provides heat, air, hot water, air conditioning. That was one of the first structures that was built and finished out to be able to maintain some heat, because this was going on in the winter, and we needed to keep it tempered in order to put sheetrock up and keep the floors dry so we could lay flooring and so on and so forth.
Mechanical, electrical, plumbing, med gas, all that was created in a digital 3D model. We got one guy who that's all he does. He creates the job in a 3D world and sees what's going to happen.
Poor construction, they had an actual site supervisor, and then they had probably 6 sub-supervisors. So every day, the reporting process, the inspection process, coordinating that with the city. In some cases, we had to have the state here. All of that had to be coordinated and as to not hold up construction.
This is probably close to one of the bigger projects we've ever done. For one continuous project, this has probably been one of the bigger ones we've done.
Our trailer was adjacent to poor construction, and any problems that came up were quickly discussed. In the 3 years it took to build the hospital, there were many, many meetings.
Your ORs are always the first thing you want to start because they take the longest. You'll come in, you think you got everything laid out the right way. You'll bring the doctors in, and this is kind of their area. They get to pick and choose exactly what they want. My last job, we had to completely change the layout of the room because the main doctor who was doing all the heart surgeries and things was left-handed. There's no room for error in any of these rooms.
During my tenure, we got to see the building really come into completion. So when I got here, there were steel beams and pouring concrete. So we got to see it really come into a closed envelope that became a building.
We would come over as much as possible and just kind of walk around and look at the site.
When we offered tours during construction, of course we had to make sure everybody had a hard hat on, safety vests on, kept groups together in small packs.
There were no elevators, so as we started to look at the facility, even to just get up on the next level of floor, we were climbing ladders.
For me, I would climb 5 floors of concrete steps with no railing to see where my office would be. So I did that a couple of times in the summer, and I thought, that's enough, I'll wait.
It was really kind of hard to visualize all of it because of the size. Most of us carried a little map around with us trying to figure out where everything was.
The steel and concrete work in the stairwells and elevator shafts, the amount of rebar and concrete required and the time it took to do that was pretty amazing from someone like me who's not used to construction.
And we got to see the sheetrock going in, and we got to see the equipment being placed and the finishes being put in.
And when I knew it was going to be finished and what it was going to look like was when they got the outside brick on. You could see the building, you could see it's taking shape. You could see the immensity of it. It was pretty awesome.
But I do remember the day that the last beam was hoisted up, and we had a huge festivity.
We all signed a steel beam. We put like some sort of little saying or wish that we have, for this facility. Ceremony that goes way back, I think, to Scandinavia.
They used to put evergreen on the highest structure of the new buildings that were being constructed in town. Just signifies prosperity, growth for the community. Just say thank you to everybody involved in the project.
When I signed the beam yesterday, I wrote, God bless all those that work in this facility to serve others.
There will be people's lives saved in this building. And what better way to represent the investment in the ministry than this lovely facility that we have behind us? You're part of the healthcare team because of what you're doing here. And I hope that in a few years you'll drive back by and say, I had a part of that.
A lot of leaders from our corporate office as well as from our community and from our board that were present that day to help us celebrate.
Signing the beam and seeing it actually topped out was really a great experience for me. It was finally becoming a reality. It was fulfillment of a dream for me and for most of us who'd been involved in it for many years.
We still have a long way to go. I always like to equate it to climbing a mountain. The summit's only the halfway point. You still got to get back down. So today is our summit.
What a day. We have waited so long and worked so hard to be here. And I want to welcome you to the dedication of our facility today. What a magnificent building. And we are so honored that you have joined us.
You walked in and so many times we heard that this looks like a huge hotel.
How beautiful the facility was, so patient-oriented.
Any outpatient service you want to visit is off the lobby. You didn't have to go to another waiting room, another lobby somewhere on another floor.
Great lights and windows and the huge atrium and the plants, and you still had the sterile environments and all that, but it just felt more warm and comforting.
So when working with our art consultant, that was one of the things that they really promoted, is making sure that we were using natural scenery so that we were providing that local culture, local art, but also healing and well-being.
Today we will cut the ribbon on a new chapter in the life of Jonesboro, Northeast Arkansas, and Baptist Memorial Healthcare. We're going to be able to make a difference in people's lives for generations to come.
Just a wonderful, exciting day. All the doctors were there and their families. Governor Beebe was here, and it was important that he be here because he and Steve Reynolds and I were all classmates at ASU in the 60s.
There was a question whether any of the three of us were going to get out of school. I said, well, Dean Moore said all three of us were either going to be famous or infamous. I don't know what happened to them, but Pastor, I had a whole lot of grace, the unmerited favor of God.
So it was really special for me to have those two individuals here, as well as all the other people that had worked so hard to see this accomplished.
This is a new facility that reflects a new model of care, an integrated model that will transform the delivery of health care.
This is an unbelievable asset that was the vision of unbelievable people. Men and women who have devoted their life to the profession of healing and caring for people who suffer. It is a noble profession, one of the oldest, but one of the most important today.
I am so glad I'm able to be a part, to be able to help design and build a hospital in my hometown. Being able to live a legacy, I think, is just really a dream come true.
And I have been given the privilege to announce to you the largest gift ever given to the Baptist Memorial Healthcare Corporation has been presented to us by Wallace and Jama Fowler. And if you would please stand.
We had a charitable foundation at that point, had 5 programs, and one of those programs was Hope Circle, which provided resources and support services for cancer patients who are undergoing treatment. We wanted to enhance the services that we as a foundation were able to offer cancer patients in this region. The Fowlers, Mr. and Mrs. Fowler, were so generous in supporting our campaign. They saw the vision and understood that what patients were going through during the diagnosis, that those support services and resources for those who didn't have that capacity would really help those patients as they were walking that cancer journey.
While we completed the largest construction project in the state of Arkansas, there have been countless hours of planning and preparation to safely move patients and begin operating in new environments.
We were moving from an 88-bed facility to a 181-bed facility. We hired over 100 nurses in that last year before the move, and they began to train.
So we had to line up a series of ambulances through multiple companies, load patients in from the old hospital, transport them to the new hospital, and wheel them all the way up to their new bed.
We started planning that move 2 years before it happened.
We spent probably the last 2 months doing mock drills in the new facility before we even opened the door so that staff would be very familiar and be able to respond in the case of an emergency. We would time how long it would take to get from one place to the other.
We had to be prepared for ICU patients, any patient that was on a cardiac monitor.
The initial walkthrough was just to kind of hammer out routes and where we needed to be and how we needed to function and flow through the hospital. The second walkthrough that we did, a full dress rehearsal of what we were going to do.
Each ambulance actually had a nurse. If they're a critical care patient, a physician would ride in the ambulance with them.
We had to have these beds ready over here. We had to have staff over here ready to go. We had to have staff working over there to get the patients ready to go.
We found out real quick the patients were excited about the move and to be a part of the move, so that was exciting.
It was immaculate that it went as smoothly as it did. I mean, it went very smooth.
I am pleased to announce that the patient move has been successfully completed. I repeat, the patient move has been successfully completed. All patients are now located at the new NEA Baptist campus at 4800 East Johnson Avenue.
The moment that I was most proud of, seeing the team take that sigh of relief and be so proud of what they had accomplished.
It was a huge, I feel like, piece of my life at that point, with so many years of planning and finally coming to fruition to be able to see this building as it is today.
I've anticipated this historic event and struggled to find just the right words for the occasion. And then I remembered a quote from baseball legend and Hall of Famer George Kell. I know where the real values in life are: home and family and church and friends. And I might add the word community to his humble remarks. And oh, what a community and medical community Jonesboro has become.
Other than some of the large factories, the economy of Jonesboro is built on medical care. When you look at the hospitals, the medical school, medicine is king. Every large town in Arkansas has 2 hospitals. I'm proud that St. Bernard's has what they have. and we help build St. Bernard's. They make us better, we make them better. There would never have been a medical school here had it not been the efforts of both hospitals to say, hey, look, put it here, we'll help teach those students.
I heard some of the nursing instructors at the schools, they were like, everyone wants to come to the new facility and be able to do clinicals at the new facility.
The movement into this building definitely increased the number of jobs in healthcare from around 1,200 total employees to well over 2,000.
When you look at the number of jobs that come directly as a result of healthcare, it's an economic driver for Jonesboro and for the entire region.
Before we announced where we were going to build this campus, there was really nothing out here.
A little bit of retail, a little bit of commercial activity, and a decent amount of residential. There are a lot of restaurants, different types of commercial services that weren't there 10 years ago that now are there to provide that service. The construction of NEA Baptist Hospital and NEA Baptist Clinic really served as a springboard for other development to occur within that part of the community.
We immediately had state-of-the-art physical space, state-of-the-art equipment.
All new monitors in the ICU, all new monitors in the ER.
Our Epic medical record,
3D mammography.
Robots that we use in orthopedics and general surgery and OB-GYN surgery.
This new campus allowed us to offer services that we simply were not able to offer before.
And we got to couple that with the expertise of the physicians and providers of the NEA Baptist Clinic that had been serving this community for much longer. Certainly people wanted to come and see and experience care in this place.
We'll continue to set the bar in high quality care. We'll continue to develop the best place to build a career in healthcare.
People in Little Rock know that Jonesboro's here now. They didn't when Dr. Hall and I were back in training.
This organization has continued to innovate and challenge what healthcare looks like in this community. In the next 10 years, will just be more of that.
The new building is a facilitator. The new building allows us to be efficient.
They don't have to go to bigger cities like Memphis or Little Rock now for specialized care. It's all right here.
Dr. Hall and Dr. Hightower and Dr. Taylor and Dr. Mackey, they're like brothers to me.
I'm just proud of the evolution of the clinic from a small office downtown to a facility that meets the needs of this region.
We couldn't imagine from the start to where we are now. I'm seeing nearly 470,000 patients in a year. We've been so blessed to be able to be physicians and that we're doing what God wants us to do. And we have this opportunity that we participate in this adventure together.
And so we celebrate a beautiful facility. We celebrate bricks and mortar. What we celebrate more than that are people. The doctors and the nurses and the technicians and the custodians. Every person who devotes their life to healthcare to make things better for the rest of us. Because a building, after all, is just a building. But it's what goes on with the people inside that really does make the difference.